Over 100 people, including 14 policemen, have been killed in the violent clashes that have broken out between security forces and protesters in Bangladesh. And this has happened as thousands took to the streets across the nation demanding the ouster of Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina following her regime's harsh crackdown on the job quota reform protests. Now, apart from Dhaka, at least 15 districts in Bangladesh reported violent clashes on Sunday. The death toll was the highest for a single day from any protests in Bangladesh's recent history, surpassing the 67 deaths reported earlier on the 19th of July. And that is when students took to the streets to demand the scrapping of quotas for government jobs. Over 300 people have died in Bangladesh since the agitation began earlier in June this year. Mohammad Arafat, Bangladesh's Minister of Information and Broadcasting, took to social media to post a video of agitators who were setting Bangabandhu Medical University Hospital ablaze. Arafat chastised the so-called protesters for engaging in thuggery and violence in the name of a peaceful movement. And this as demonstrators blocked arterial highways, demanding Hasina to step down. The university faculties have proposed an interim government, and this while the movement has preponed a long march to Dhaka earlier scheduled for the 6th of August. In the face of the clashes, the Home Ministry imposed an indefinite nationwide curfew. Railways and internet services also remain suspended amid the ongoing crisis. Meanwhile, the Bangladesh government has announced a 3-day public holiday which begins today, and this is the first time Bangladesh government has taken such a step in the face of protests that began last month.
Dozens of people have been killed and scores were injured in clashes in Bangladesh on Sunday. Police fired tear gas and lobbed stun grenades as tens of thousands of protesters took to the streets, calling for Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to resign.
All the ministers are in hiding. Wait and see how the people will go and surround the Prime Minister's house. If Sheikh Hasina doesn't resign voluntarily, we will take our next step.
The Interior Ministry declared an indefinite nationwide curfew starting at 6 p.m. local time on Sunday. It's the first time it has taken such a step during the current protests, which began last month. The unrest is the government's biggest test since deadly protests erupted after Hasina won a 4th straight term in January elections that were boycotted by the main opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party. Critics of Hasina, along with human rights groups, have accused her government of using excessive force to stamp out the movement, a charge she and her ministers deny. Demonstrators blocked major highways on Sunday as student protesters launched a non-cooperation programme to press for the government's resignation. After a national security panel meeting, Hasina said those protesting were, quote, not students but terrorists who are out to destabilise the nation. For the second time during the recent protests, the government shut down high-speed internet services, mobile operators said. Some social media platforms were also unavailable. Last month, at least 150 people were killed and thousands more were injured and arrested in violence sparked by demonstrations led by student groups protesting against quotas for government jobs. The protests paused after the Supreme Court scrapped most quotas. But students sporadically returned to the streets last week, demanding justice for the families of those killed.
Now, viewers, in the face of these clashes, as I mentioned earlier, the Home Ministry in Bangladesh has imposed an indefinite nationwide curfew. Railways and internet services have also been suspended amid the ongoing crisis. And to explain the situation better to you, the internet services have been suspended. We've in fact been trying since over an hour to try to connect with a renowned person from Dhaka at this point, a journalist who can give us a better understanding, but we've been unsuccessful in establishing that connection, and that is just proof of the internet outage in Dhaka. We are still trying to connect to get you a better understanding of the ground situation in Dhaka, because meanwhile the Bangladesh government has announced a 3-day public holiday as well, which begins today. situation, no doubt, is extremely tense across Dhaka, as you can make out from the visuals in front. And this is not just in Dhaka, it's across 15 different districts across Bangladesh. It's a tense situation. There have been nearly 300 deaths in Bangladesh since the protests erupted in June. And in a single day, there have been over 100 deaths which have been reported, which took place on Sunday. That is something Bangladesh has not seen in recent history. These are deadly clashes which are taking place. As far as the authorities are concerned, they do not reckon that all the protesters are students. They find them as, they're referring to them as thugs, and they're also referring to them as violent protesters. There is a march which is scheduled towards Dhaka. It was scheduled for the 6th of August, but as reports are suggesting, it has been preponed and may just happen today. All the protesters, they have a one-point demand this time: the ouster of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Bangladesh's Prime Minister. The protesters want her out. And that is what the current protests are aimed at. A lot of public property has been damaged. Buses have been set ablaze. Even a hospital has been set ablaze. And Arafat, who is a public authority figure over there, has mentioned that these are not students. They are anti-social elements who are causing ruckus and destruction of public property, including a hospital.